The opening of the lighthouse keeper's last log is a masterful descent into unease, setting the stage for a story where isolation and the unknown conspire against sanity. The keeper, often a solitary, weary man, arrives at his new post, a towering sentinel of stone and iron standing defiant against the crashing waves. The air is thick with salt and the distant cries of gulls, but there's something else too. An unnatural stillness, as if the land itself is holding its breath. The previous keeper is gone, not dead, not transferred, just gone. No farewell, no proper handover, only a hastily scrawled note left on the desk. Keep the light burning, no matter what. The words are simple, but the implication is ominous. Why the urgency? What happens if the light does go out? The new keeper, pragmatic at first, dismisses the strangeness. Maybe the last man was superstitious. Maybe he cracked under the solitude. After all, lighthouses are lonely places, and the mind plays tricks in the silence between waves. He unpacks his belongings, familiarizes himself with the spiral staircase, the heavy machinery of the lantern room, the musty smell of old wood and damp stone. Everything is ordinary, except for the way the shadows seem to cling too long in the corners, the way the wind sometimes sounds like whispering. Then, as night falls, the first flicker of doubt creeps in. The beam of the lighthouse, steady, reliable, stutters for no reason. The keeper checks the mechanisms, finds nothing wrong. Outside, the fog rolls in, thicker than usual, swallowing the rocks below until the world is reduced to this tiny island of light in an endless gray void. And then, just before dawn, he sees them. Figures, dark, shapeless, standing motionless on the jagged rocks where no human could possibly stand. Watching, waiting. The keeper tells himself it's a trick of the mist, fatigue, anything but what his gut insists is true, that something is out there and it doesn't want the light to shine. By morning, the figures are gone, but the dread remains, and so begins the slow unraveling. This opening is crucial. It establishes the keeper as a rational man in an irrational situation, making his eventual breakdown all the more terrifying. The lighthouse itself becomes a character, its walls steeped in old fears, its light the only barrier between the living and something far older, far hungrier. The absence of the previous keeper looms like a ghost, his final warning a ticking time bomb beneath every word written in the log. By the time the storm hits and the radio dies, the keeper is already trapped, not just by the sea, but by the growing certainty that he was never alone to begin with. And the worst part? The keeper's first few nights in the lighthouse pass quietly, lulling him into a false sense of routine. He tends to the lamp, records the weather in the logbook, and tries to ignore the way the wind moans through the cracks in the stone like a wounded animal. But then, little by little, the ordinary begins to twist. It starts with the light. One evening, as he climbs the spiral stairs to check the beacon, he notices it flickering, not the steady pulse of a well-oiled machine, but a sputtering, hesitant glow, as if something is tampering with it. He inspects the mechanism, tightening bolts and cleaning lenses, but there's no logical reason for the disruption. The fuel is fresh, the gears untarnished. Yet when he steps back, the shadows in the lantern room seem thicker than they should be, clinging to the corners like oil. That night, he hears it, the scratching. At first, he thinks it's the wind rattling loose shingles or a seabird trapped somewhere in the tower. But the sound is too deliberate, too rhythmic. It comes from inside the walls, a slow, persistent scraping, like claws dragging across wood. He presses his ear to the plaster, holding his breath, and for one terrible moment, the scratching stops, as if whatever is on the other side has sensed him listening. Then there are the voices, faint, distant, carried on the wind, whispers that aren't quite words, just syllables strung together in a way that almost sounds like his name. He tells himself it's the sea, the gulls, his own tired mind playing tricks. But when he steps outside to smoke, the fog is so thick he can't see the rocks below, and yet he feels eyes on him, watching, waiting. The final straw comes when he finds the old keeper's journal tucked beneath a floorboard. The pages are water-stained, the handwriting increasingly frantic. The last entry is a single sentence, smeared as if written in haste. They don't like the light. And then, beneath it, a single word, underlined 3 times. Run. But it's too late for that. The storm is coming. The radio has gone silent, and the keeper realizes, with a slow, creeping horror, that whatever is out there, whatever is inside, has only just begun to show itself. The first strange occurrences are always the worst, because they're the moment the world stops making sense, the moment the keeper understands. He's not alone, and whatever shares this lighthouse with him has been here far, far longer than he has. The storm rolls in like a living thing, a monstrous groaning tempest that shakes the lighthouse to its bones. The wind screams through the cracks in the stone, and the waves below crash against the cliffs with enough force to send tremors up the tower. The keeper knows this is no ordinary squall. It feels deliberate, as if the sea itself is angry. He seals the shutters, checks the lamp, and tries the radio again. Only static answers. The mainland might as well be another world now. He is utterly alone. Then, through the howling wind, he hears it. A voice. Not the garbled whispers from before, but something clearer. A call, almost human, but wrong. It comes from outside, cutting through the storm as if untouched by the wind. His name, spoken in a tone that is neither friendly nor threatening, but hungry. Heart pounding, he peers through the rain-streaked glass. The beam of the lighthouse cuts through the darkness, illuminating the jagged rocks below, and that's when he sees them. Figures, black silhouettes against the churning foam, standing motionless on the rocks where no living thing should be able to stand. Their shapes are indistinct, too tall, too thin, but their heads are tilted upward, watching the light, waiting. The keeper stumbles back, breath ragged. He tells himself it's driftwood, shadows, anything but what his gut screams they are. But then the lamp flickers again, and in that split second of darkness, something moves outside. A shape, fast and unnatural, darting closer to the base of the tower. A deafening thud shakes the door below. Something is trying to get in. The keeper grabs the fire axe, hands shaking. The pounding comes again, louder, more insistent, and beneath it, a new sound. Scratching, like claws dragging along the wood, testing its strength. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stops. The storm rages on, but the lighthouse is silent. The keeper doesn't move, doesn't breathe. He knows deep in his marrow that whatever was outside is still there. And it's no longer just outside. It's inside the walls. The first encounter changes everything. The keeper can no longer pretend this is just isolation playing tricks on his mind. Something is here with him. Something ancient. Something that wants the light to go out. And it's only just begun. The storm passes, leaving behind an eerie stillness, the kind of quiet that feels like the world is holding its breath. The keeper moves through the lighthouse like a ghost himself, jumping at every creak of the stairs, every groan of the old structure settling. The encounter during the storm has left him shaken, but worse than the fear is the gnawing certainty that he is not the first to face whatever lurks here. He finds it by accident, a loose floorboard in the keeper's quarters that gives way beneath his foot with a hollow thunk. Kneeling, he pries it up with trembling fingers, revealing a hidden compartment beneath. Inside lies a journal, its leather cover warped by damp, its pages stiff with salt. The handwriting is frantic, the ink smeared in places, as if written in haste or terror. The first entries are mundane, weather reports, supply lists, the dull routine of a man doing his duty. But then, slowly, the tone shifts. The previous keeper writes of sleepless nights, of whispers in the dark that couldn't possibly be the wind. He describes figures on the rocks, just as the current keeper has seen, and a creeping dread that the lighthouse is not just a beacon for ships, but a barrier, a last line of defense against something that wants in. The entries grow more disjointed, the handwriting spiking into jagged peaks. The keeper reads of scratches inside the walls, of a voice that calls from the sea, of shadows that move when the light flickers. Then the final page, a single paragraph, the ink blotted as if by sweat or tears. They're inside the walls now. I hear them breathing. The light is the only thing keeping them out, but it's getting harder to keep it burning. They don't want me. They want the light to go out. If you're reading this, you have to understand. They'll try to make you doubt. They'll wear you down. But you can't let it go dark, not even for a second. Beneath that, a final line, scrawled so hard the pen had torn the paper. God help me, I think they're in the tower. The keeper lowers the journal, his blood running cold. The silence of the lighthouse is no longer empty, it's watchful. He thinks of the scratching in the walls, the whispers in the storm, the figures on the rocks. The previous keeper didn't abandon his post. Something took him, and now, whatever it is, it's back. The truth doesn't bring clarity, only a deeper, more paralyzing fear. The lighthouse isn't just his duty, it's his prison, and the only way out is to survive long enough for the next keeper to arrive, or to become another unanswered question in the logbook's final, unfinished entry. The days blur together in a haze of exhaustion and creeping terror. The keeper no longer sleeps, can't sleep, not with the things in the walls. They whisper to him now. At first it was just the wind, just the sea. Then it was his name, called from the rocks below in a voice that wasn't human. Now, the voices come from inside, murmurs in a language he doesn't know but somehow understands. Words that slither into his ears and coil around his thoughts. They tell him things, that the light is pointless, that no one is coming, that he could just let it go out. Just for a moment, just to rest. He fights it. He must. But the lighthouse is working against him now. The machinery, once reliable, grows temperamental. The lamp gutters and dims at random intervals, plunging the tower into near darkness before flaring back to life. Each time it happens, the things in the walls grow louder, more excited, scurrying behind the plaster like rats, their claws clicking against the stone. He sees them too. Not fully, never fully, just glimpses. A face in the window, pale and grinning, gone when he blinks. A shadow at the edge of the lantern room, too tall, too thin, melting away when the light swings toward it. Once, he wakes from a half-doze to find the trap door to the lower levels open, though he swears he bolted it shut. From below comes a sound like wet footsteps on the stairs. The logbook becomes his only tether to sanity. His entries, once neat and methodical, now sprawl across the pages in jagged script, veering between terror and numb resignation. Day unknown. The lamp is failing. I don't know how much longer I can keep it lit. They're in the walls. They're in the walls. They're in the walls. I saw the last keeper tonight. At least I think it was him. He was standing on the rocks, but his face was wrong. He waved at me. Then the waves took him under. The final entry is the shortest. They're coming up the stairs. And then nothing. The light goes out, and in the darkness, something laughs. The descent into madness is never a plunge. It's a slow, inevitable slide, the kind where a man doesn't realize how far he's fallen until it's too late to climb back. The keeper's last nights are a symphony of dread, each note more dissonant than the last, building to a crescendo that doesn't end. Because the worst part isn't the moment the light dies. It's the moment he realizes he wants it to. The keeper knows it's over before the ink touches the page. His hands shake as he scrawls the words, each letter a desperate plea hurled into the void. The lantern room is his last refuge, the only place left where the light still holds them at bay. Below, the staircase groans under the weight of something that no longer bothers to hide its approach. The sound is methodical, inevitable, the scrape of wet flesh on stone, the creak of the steps beneath an impossible mass. He has barricaded the trap door with everything he could find, the heavy desk, the empty fuel barrels, his own body braced against it. But the wood bends with each impact, splintering inward in jagged cracks. Through the gaps, he catches glimpses of movement, pale fingers too long and too many, curling around the edges. The lamp flickers. He lunges for it, adjusting the wick with frantic precision. The flame steadies, casting its golden glow across the room. For a moment, the pounding stops. A hiss of frustration slithers through the cracks in the floorboards. They hate the light. He knows this now. It's the only thing he truly understands anymore. The lighthouse was never meant to guide ships home. It was built to keep them in the dark. And he is the last fraying thread holding the world together. The logbook lies open on the floor beside him. He seizes it, his final words spilling out in a chaotic rush. They're inside. I can hear them in the stairs. The light is the only thing holding them back. A thunderous crash shakes the room. The desk slides backward, inch by terrible inch. If anyone finds this, don't let the light go out, ever. The trap door bursts open. The keeper doesn't look. He can't. Instead, he presses the pen down one last time, the ink blooming across the page like a black tide. They're here. The lamp goes out. And in the darkness, something screams, not in triumph, but in ecstasy. The last entry is never finished. The final stand is always a lie. There is no brave last resistance, no glorious defiance, just a man alone in the dark, realizing too late that the light was all that ever stood between him and the things that wait beyond it. And now, there is no light. Now, there is only them. The relief crew arrives on a calm, gray morning, the kind of stillness that feels like the world is holding its breath. The boat cuts through glassy water, the lighthouse looming ahead, its once proud beam now dark and lifeless. No one answers their radio calls. No lantern flashes in greeting from the tower. Only silence. They find the door unlocked. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of salt and something else, something metallic, something spoiled. The lower level is undisturbed, the kitchen tidy, the bed neatly made as if its occupant merely stepped out for a moment. But the stairs tell a different story. Deep gouges run along the walls, the wood splintered as though something heavy, something with claws, had dragged itself upward. The lantern room is where the truth reveals itself. The lamp is shattered, its glass scattered like fallen stars across the floor. The keeper's logbook lies open on the desk, the final entry a jagged scrawl that stops mid-sentence. The last words are smeared, as though written in haste, or as though something had interrupted the writing. But it's the walls that tell the real story. They are covered in scratches. Not random marks, not the work of rats or storms, but words carved over and over into the stone with a frantic, desperate hand. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. And beneath them, a single phrase, dug so deep the stone is stained dark. Too late. The relief crew searches the island, calls his name, scans the waves for any sign of him. But they already know, in that primal way humans recognize dread, that they won't find him. Not alive, not whole. The boat leaves before sunset. As they pull away, one of them swears he sees a figure standing in the lantern room, a silhouette too tall, too still, watching them go. But when he looks again, there's nothing there, just an empty lighthouse and a dark, unlit tower waiting for the next keeper. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.